Thank you so much. It is now both a privilege and honor to have Oregon Representative Betty Komp as our commencement speaker today. Representative Komp has served the state of Oregon since 2004. In addition to her public service career, she has deep roots at Western Oregon University, where she earned a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. She was 35 and looking for a life change when she began investigating college. She enrolled at Chemeketa Community College and eventually transferred to Western Oregon University, graduating in 1990 with a bachelor's degree. She took a job teaching at Woodburn High School and began working on a master's degree, which she also received in 1992. Representative Komp was hired as an assistant principal at Woodburn High, and during a time when the school was experiencing intense gang activity and violence. She was part of an administrative team that created a zero-tolerance policy and also a plan for handling gang activity on campus. By advocating for high standards of discipline, Representative Komp gained the respect of students, staff, and the community by lowering the dropout rate, improving the attendance rate, and cracking down on violence. In her own words, it comes down to setting a high bar. If we expect more of people, chances are they will live into those expectations. It is my honor as president of the university to welcome Representative Komp to the podium.
Good morning. It's almost afternoon and you're waiting for the special moments that you're all here for. It is my humble honor to come before you today. This is a first for me. I have never given a commencement speech. I have been a principal at the ceremonies. I have read the graduate's name. But to be here in front of you is an exceptional privilege. But first, I want to extend my thanks to every parent, every neighbor, every friend, every person that made it possible for all these wolves to sit here and say, I'm a wolf and I'm graduating. Thank you to all your support, people. Many of you might be the first. You might be the first in your family to get this degree. President Fuller told you a little bit about my background. I'm going to tell you a little bit more and a couple of lessons that I learned at Western Oregon University. Of course, it wasn't called Western Oregon University at that time. I don't know what rendition we were in, but we were in from OCE to something. Well, it's about growth. I'm a child of a parent, of a mother and father. I have 13 brothers and sisters. Yeah, it's a little crazy. But I'm third oldest, and I was fortunate that in that role, I was becoming a parent at a very young age. My parents had a dairy farm, and my older brother and sister went out and milked cows with them. So it was my job to always be changing diapers, always making sure breakfast was ready, school lunches were ready to go when it was time. And for my baby brother, which he's over 50, folks, and he just had his first child last week. So the name will continue. But the reality is he didn't like to wear socks even at a very, very young age, and we'd always be waiting for him to put his socks on to get to the school bus. Some of you might have something in common there. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions as a graduate, and beyond that, I want you to know that my life changed dramatically when I was 18 years old and became pregnant with my first child. I focused on my 4 daughters until I was 35 years old, decided I always wanted to be a teacher. And so my journey began there and continued at Western, and it was this climate, this culture of this campus that has brought me to where I stand today. I'm very teary about this. This is the first time I've stood here like this, and so I appreciate your indulgence a little bit. But I want you to think back as graduates now, and what was the best class that you ever had at Western? Can you even think about it? You figured it out? Okay. But now, I'm going to ask you the reverse. What was your worst class? No problems there. Okay. Well, when I went to Western, my best class was a class called the classical drama, and we had small books, and believe it or not, this one cost $3.25. This one cost $4.25. But these were the classical dramas of the Greek and the Romans, Aristophanes, Plautus, and the School of Thought by Sheridan. And I just thought that class was awesome. Everything that I needed to know in politics, I learned in these three books. But now I want to talk a little bit about my worst class. And don't get too worried, I won't get too deep, but oh my gosh, as an English major, we had to take this class that was called The Nature of the English Language. I assure you, I don't have that textbook today. I threw it in the trash the day of the final. Yes, I'm a real person. But that class, The Nature of the English Language, brought me forward as an incredible teacher in the classroom that had multi-diverse students. They were second language speakers, third language speakers, and of all things, the lessons that kept coming to mind were in that little orange book that I threw in the trash. And it's the motivation of the teachers that brought me thus far. I hope you always, and you think of your teachers today, and you thank them. I recently was told by my political consultant, he called me and he said, "Betty, do you know that you are the only candidate in 15 years that he's worked with that sent him a thank you note?" And I just said, "You're kidding. Why?" He helped me. He was a source of support, criticism, and good advice. And I want to talk about just a couple of stories that happened here to me on campus. I worked in the tutoring center. I was somebody that always liked to help others out. And plus, it was part of my financial aid package. But I had a student that was struggling. We used to have to pass the CBEST test. Don't know if you have to these days. But it was not a linguistically easy thing to pass. So we worked on it, and the cost of that exam was expensive even then. And so he took it 3 times, and he still failed. And finally I thought, well, this is a smart young man. He wants to be an elementary teacher. What aren't we doing right for him? And I sought out some help from one of my teachers, Dr. Gerard. And I said, he just can't put his words on paper. I said, is there a way that we can have him take the test orally? And Dr. Gerard said, give me some time, I'll work on it. And lo and behold, we got an exemption. He was able to take exam orally and to share his thoughts, and Dr. Gerard typed it out and submitted it. Thankfully, that young man is a teacher today. If it had not been for Dr. Gerard, his time, his willingness to come in on a Saturday to take the dictation of this young man's test, it would not have happened. That is the spirit of Western Oregon University. Very briefly, I'll talk to you just about one of my advisors, my School of Ed advisor. I just couldn't get forward thinking it'd take me 6-8 years to become a school administrator. And I walked into his office one day and I said, is there any way we can speed this up? I'm getting old. I mean, my goal was to graduate when I was 40. Who in this world in Oregon hires a high school teacher at age 40? Come on. And so I sit there in his office and he picks up his phone. He calls an educator from PSU and he says, I've got somebody that needs to talk to you. And I'm sitting there and go, who am I talking to? Well, it was a professor of the administration department at PSU. And lo and behold, to this day, I'm the only undergraduate that has been admitted to the PSU administrative program. Again, that was through Dr. Weiss. Wasn't me. It was a professor and an advisor here. Lastly, I want to talk to you because I grew up in poverty. When we milked those cows, we had plenty of milk to drink. We had food on the table. But when I entered first grade, I did not know what the alphabet was. There was not one book in my home. There was no newspaper. There was no print medium of any sort. And so I was really scared to go to school. I was the last person in my class that got my reading book, and that was after Christmas, because it took me a while to catch up, but it was hard. I always felt like I was out of place. And frequently, even at college level, I would make sarcastic remarks about myself. Well, Betty can't do this and Betty can't do that. Well, I had a professor one summer. It was just a seminar class. And after class one day, he said, Betty, I need to talk to you. And I thought, well, this is like going to the principal's office, but not quite. But he did tell me, he said, if you make one more derogatory statement about yourself, you cannot come to this class. Wow. That hit me right through the eyes. I didn't realize that I had been making such negative comments, that my self-esteem was terrible. And yet, here, another professor, somebody that I never ever knew before that week started. I've never seen him since, but he changed my life. He made it possible for me to say, yes, I want to be a school principal. And when I became frustrated with federal regulations, I said, this is not what kind of education we want in Oregon. And I ran for election. It was these people that gave me the strength and courage to come here. You will not find my name on a building like my good colleague, Senator Courtney. I am a very different type of a legislator. I work in quiet circles behind the doors, and my focus has been increasing the amount of funding for higher ed, making sure that all students can and should have the best education we can give. Most of my work in the last 6 years has been on teacher development and support, because they don't get it near the recognition they deserve. Hear, hear. Teachers are pretty awesome people, every one of them. And I hope that's the teachers in the audience, the teachers that are graduating, and all the teachers in the future here. I'm going to close with a quote, and lots of visionary things have been said already today. I'd like to just say, never give up, keep up, you can do it. But one of my not so favorite authors is Mark Twain. I think about him when I read United States history, and I still wonder if he's rowing down the Mississippi River, if he's somewhere in the Missouri. But Mark Twain says, always do right. This will gratify some people and astonish the rest. Congratulations. God bless America. God bless you and your families.
Thank you, Representative Komp. Thank you for being a champion for Oregon, a champion for education, and a champion for Western.